What up, guys? Welcome to the Real Christian Show. My name is Ben Petch, and I'm your host today. If you're new to the show, we have 4 different things that we talk at the Real Christian. We do current events. We do those with my good friend Phil Lyman. He's running for governor in the state of Utah, and he has a lot of knowledge when it comes to policy, what's happening in the world, and it's kind of like your weekly news and stuff. We do those like twice a month. They're freaking a banger, so you can go out and listen to that one. We do interviews with people that I think they have a cool story, and we'd love to give them a platform so they can share. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. And I'll intro the guest in a couple minutes. Then we do Q&As. This one is one of my favorite ones, and you guys can submit directly your questions to my Instagram. That's where most people that they just have questions and stuff, they just send it to my personal Instagram. And then I got Bendix that works with us that just tells me what questions they have and stuff, and then we make videos about it. And then the last one is a solo podcast, just me talking about topics that I think need to be addressed, and talk about faith, personal development, entrepreneurship, social media, mindset, and all that stuff. And so in today's episode, we're going to do the interview one, and we have a really good guest. Andre, how you doing, brother?
Doing fantastic, brother. Thank you for
How's
having me.
life, dude?
Doing good. I think it's better than ever at this point.
Better than ever?
Yeah.
Dude, when did we meet?
We met back in 23,
Has it been that long?
Yeah, it's been like almost 2 or 3 years now. Back in 2023,
Really?
right in front of in Provo, where the Riverwoods is. That's where we first met.
Interesting. Was
Mhm.
that a... No, it wasn't fighting.
No, I wasn't fighting. You actually introduced me to fighting, and then we went from there.
So what was in the Riverwoods? What did we do in the
So
Riverwoods?
you were working with Stan Firm, I think, and we were. It's funny. This podcast has been like supposed to. It had to happen like a while back, but seems like it happened now. So
Yeah.
that was a big. That was the reason why we met, was to do a podcast.
Oh, true,
Mhm.
true. Okay. So we met back in 2023. Are you still fighting?
No, actually, I'm not fighting anymore. Uh,
No?
I plan on retaking that at some point.
Really? Okay.
Mhm.
Why'd you get into fighting? What was the thing that got your attention with it?
It was just um, it was a thing that I've always wanted to do, but it was always pushed off. And then I actually did it, and I had a great time. And then things just started happening in my life that, you know, took for a turn. That's why I kind of left it. But
Yeah.
that is in the plans to come back to it.
Okay. Well, dude, there's 2 things I want to talk about. One is a post you made, and then actually that's gonna be your second one. The first one is one of the conversation we had when I saw you at the gym a couple of months ago, and you were going through it, that kind of like breakup season of your life, and we'll right into it just because I do believe a lot of guys struggle with it, and it's good to
Yeah.
be relatable. So, what happened?
So check this out. I was dating this girl for almost 3 years. Okay. Um, part of that was part of it why it was long is because it was just on and off for a long time. Um, I finally took her serious, So I said, all right, if we're gonna date, we're gonna do this right. So we started dating, and it was pretty good. There's a lot of good highlights to that relationship.
You guys were freaking. I saw your story every single time.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, you could say I was in love, and
Were you?
I think I was. I'm pretty sure I
It
was.
looked like, at least from the
Yeah.
outside.
No, I think I was. And when you start doing things that are contrary to your beliefs, things start taking a turn for the worst.
What do you mean?
And what I mean by that is when you start, and obviously I'm pretty religious. You know that of my background, Ben.
It's
But
called the Real Christian. So here we keep it
yeah,
real, and it's about
no,
faith
but like,
principles. Not. Let me just start with this before you even say anything. Is
yeah,
a lot of Christianity stuff is very just passive, but it's also like, oh, I'm holy, I'm this righteous. I'm like, dude, we're all messed up, trying to get better,
sure,
and it's just being real and how sinners need Christ, and real struggles that we go through life. So it's not. I'll just start with this, and I'm the host, which I'm like the most imperfect guy in the freaking world. So you
no,
gotta
no,
get
I'm
that.
totally with you on that. And I'll say this: like we were breaking a couple commandments. Obviously, we weren't We weren't keeping the law of chastity. So that was a big thing.
Yeah.
And, I still remember when it was happening. Um, I felt that God had told me, I know you're having fun right now, but just wait until I take everything away from you. And I still remember those words of when it happened. I didn't think much of it. I thought it was just like me in my mind. But that was God communicating to me like, hey, dude, things are going to start getting really tough if you don't shape up. So obviously I didn't listen. And we continued on. And things just started happening where it made the relationship really rocky. Um, it
Was that the
wasn't.
main thing, or did you start drinking and stuff and
No,
everything?
I wasn't drinking. That was the main thing. But I
Oh,
stopped going to church. I wasn't reading, the scriptures or anything. I stopped praying. Um, I lost my relationship with God. And
did
it's
you
funny
become very
because
lustful too?
what was that?
Did you become like very lustful,
Yeah, I could say that. I
or
could say,
like that stuff? It actually came from like love and connection, or he became
I
just more
could
like,
I could say it was a lot of love. Like there was a lot of love to it, and then some of it was lust. Yeah,
oh yeah, yeah.
yeah. But so yeah, that's kind of what happened, and then my life started spiraling. At the point where I got serious with her, I felt like I was on top of the world. I was doing well in my business. I was closing big real estate deals, made me a lot of money. But you know, I think the way God showed me to humble myself was to take all that away. So I lost my temple recommend. I lost a lot of money. I started spending on things I shouldn't have. I didn't think
Like
about
what?
it.
Like just material stuff, just
It was just
clothes.
material stuff. It was like going out on trips. It was going on vacations, not working, not having the motivation to go work. My life was her, so I felt like she had taken control of that part of my life. Not for the bad, but I just think I was like I was just madly in love with her. So I said that she was going to be the priority over everything, and that's what happened. And I let my business fail. I ended up going to get a job, which is not something that
Really?
yeah, because I work for myself, but I had to go to get a job, and I was making, $20 an hour from making, at some point six figures every deal. So that was the point where I got to, and
Interesting.
even that job, like it was tough, like it wasn't easy. Um, so, anyways, that happened, and then things started getting really rocky. Our relationship wasn't great. I decided, hey, maybe getting engaged will, spark the relationship more. Um, so I got engaged last July, so it was about a year ago. Um, and there was, I guess, some spark, but in the end, it didn't work out. We ended up breaking up in October, and a lot of it was just because we weren't on the same page religiously. Like there was a lot of things I wanted to do better. I knew that we were doing wrong, and you could say for lust, or you could say just for weakness of the natural man, we just weren't doing the things right. And
Was
we
she a
broke up.
believer or anything, or no?
What was that?
Was she a believer?
She was a believer. She was a believer, but I'd say I was. She's a believer to a certain extent, but I was the person to try to move it forward on the
Yeah, I
belief.
mean, you're the leader, so obviously it's
Of
more
course,
on you for sure.
yeah. And it was just
But,
always a struggle to get her on the same page with that. And it is what it is, you know.
so what'd you learn?
I learned that when you stay with the Lord, when He's in your life all the time, things are a lot easier. And that includes keeping the commandments. So um, I broke up with her in October. I said, okay, now that this has happened, it's time to shape myself up. So I started going to church, started meeting with my leaders, and it was tough. It was really tough because again, I lost a lot of my spirituality, and I felt
And you
like
lost yourself in the process too, I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
yeah, I lost who I was, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I forgot everything that I knew who I was, and I go on, let me take a step back. During that moment, I looked myself in the mirror and I looked at the person that I was, and I said, this was not the person that I was supposed to become, and this was not the person that is working for somebody. This is not the person that thought that he would lose his technical recommend. This is not the person that would lose his relationship with almost his family. I didn't have a good relationship with my parents for a little bit during that relationship. So I said, look, things got to change. And I knew the thing that needed to change was to put my life back in order with God.
When
And
did you break up the engagement, or she broke it off?
I would say it was mutual, but I was more leaning towards her because I wanted to make things work, obviously. I mean, 3 years in, you're like, hey, we got to do something to make this work. But in the end, like, did I see red flags in the relationship with both of us? 100%. But
Okay, let's break down like this stuff because I do believe a lot of guys, especially in their 20s or even younger, I would probably
yeah,
say 20s too, but guys in general, they find themselves in a similar situation, and maybe they can use your story of like
sure.
overcoming and learning from this stuff and becoming better, but also learning what was my downfall, you know? So
Yeah.
let's start from the beginning. Why did you put so much emphasis on her?
That's a good question. I think I put a lot of emphasis on her because I wanted to prove to her that I was a catch, that I was the person that she was supposed to be with.
Now, did that come from an insecurity place or from like, I am Andre, I'm a very confident guy, this is who I am?
I think it was coming from an insecurity place.
Okay.
I feel like, you know, I feel like you get to that point in your life where you're like, okay, I haven't taken the step yet. I really got to prove myself with this girl. So I was insecure about it. I felt like I had a lot to prove in that relationship, and I wanted to prove to her that, hey, I'm a good guy. Um, you know, I think I'm worth it to make this thing work. And yeah, that's where it was coming from. That's
Yeah,
why.
dude, I see that all the time. And I've struggled with that too until the
Yeah,
point that I always tell these to people, I'm like, dude, if you're not confident, fulfilled, and happy by yourself, do not get in a relationship. Because then somebody else is going to have the power of that, of
exactly.
like making you feel some sort of type of way. And I think a lot of it comes down to men not having a purpose or a vision for what they want to do. And when a girl comes along, it's like they make their whole world the girl instead of like the vision and what, hey, we can build this together now instead of
Exactly.
me chasing someone. Okay.
You said something interesting there is building something together and building a vision. I'm really goal oriented. As a matter of fact, I carry my goals around everywhere. So they're actually right here. So these are my goals for the year. And I lost that when I was with her. And I had tried to set goals with her. And it was just always like, I don't like to look in the future. I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, I'm really goal oriented. I want something to work towards. And I thought I felt like at times I was working by myself because obviously I wanted that person to work with me. But, you know, things happen for a reason, and you obviously forget those principles that you learned.
How have you taken accountability and ownership in all this experience?
Good question. So, like ownership and accountability are like two big things that I feel like I've learned from this. One, I needed to own up to what I did. Okay, so that means I needed to go and make that confession to my leader and say, "Hey, this is what I did. Um, what are the consequences from doing this?" You know, and I would say this was probably my first big offense with my leadership in my church. So when they told me, hey, this is what's going on and this is what you're confronting, hit me really hard because I'm like, dude, this is my first offense. Like, am I really that, like, in that place to, lose my membership of the church? And they said, yeah, that's what it is. You broke that commandment.
Let me just tell this too, because I have a lot of people that watch this stuff that they're not like LDS, whatever.
Yeah.
So I started reading the Bible lately, like the New Testament, and it's very interesting because when Christ established the sacrament, and he gives it to his apostles, then later on, I think it was Paul or John, I can't remember. I was reading this the other day, but he's pretty much saying, "Do not take the sacrament unworthy, because it's a sin." And he talks about just very cutthroat. Do not let anybody take this in an unworthy way. You gotta come prepared. You gotta repent, become changed. And there's this thing in Christianity, like it's very big. Of one of our videos actually went viral because of it. Because a lot of Christian churches, they just believe that, oh, if I believe in God, I'm saved. And I'm like, no, you gotta do a lot of things. And I'm not saying that we're saved by works, but what I'm saying is that it's a transformation relationship. And if we don't have consequences in our repenting process of
Of course.
losing certain rights or privileges or blessings, how are you actually going to change if you don't experience the pain of what you did? And commandments, a lot of Christians are very passive and they're very selective. Like, oh, I believe in God, but I'll have sex with this girl. I'm gonna drink or I'm gonna do this. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Like, I'm human, and they justify themselves in a way that they never change. And in my opinion, that's like making fun of Jesus and Jesus' sacrifice. But I do like the standard that the LDS Church holds people to, because I do believe it's the right way of like, hey, there's a standard. If you don't do it, there's consequences.
Absolutely.
And you gotta change, you gotta repent, you gotta get better. There's a certain expectation. And grace is such an important part of it too. But just giving some context in it for the people as well that don't understand this.
No, of course. No, and that's good context right there. But yeah, those were my consequences. Like I said, I lost my temple recommend. I couldn't go in. They said I couldn't take the sacrament. They said I couldn't participate in church. And they said, hey, your membership is up for review. Because you broke this big commandment, you might be, excommunicated. And I remember listening to my bishop, and I'm like, you kidding me? Are you serious? And he's like, yep, I'm serious. And I was like, so I had two decisions there when he told me that. I had the decision, hey, I could be pissed off and not show up to church anymore. Or two, I could, take ownership and accountability of what I did and just face the consequences, And that's what I did. I made that decision. I said, hey, you know what? Whatever comes. It sucks, but I'm here for it. I need
And
it.
when was that? When did you start that process?
So that was about 11 months ago. 11 months ago.
You broke up at the time, right? You were already done?
Yeah, we were done. We were done. So we were done
Okay,
by
so you
then.
started like after.
Yeah, correct.
Oh, okay.
So, anyways, so that's what happened. And I would say almost a year ago, to be honest with you.
How did all this stuff affected your confidence now? Like as a man?
You know,
Like honestly.
uh, so it's kind of interesting that you asked that because at the beginning I was ashamed. I was ashamed of everything that had happened. I presented this girl to my parents, and it didn't work out, especially because I got engaged. So it did affect my confidence. It even affects my confidence sometimes now because sometimes I'll say this: dating now and having to have that conversation is hard. To say, yeah, I went through this. I didn't save myself from marriage. It's hard. It's hard to go through because
So was that the first girl you've ever had like sex with then?
correct,
Okay.
correct. And some girls are having that expectation of the guy they're gonna meet is, hey, they saved themselves for that moment, and yeah, it was tough. It's tough. It's tough, but then again, if you truly do believe in the Savior and you truly do believe that grace is real and that you can seek forgiveness, then at the end that shouldn't matter, because the person I am now is way different than the person I was a year ago.
It's so important, dude, to this is something I actively try to do in my relationship of putting God first, especially as a relationship or a couple. Because I don't know, dude. I cannot see my relationship or just relationships in general just trying to figure out by yourself instead of like putting God right in the middle. And I've seen way more success by not what Ben wants or what my girlfriend or partner wants, but what God wants for us.
Right.
And it's really cool, but it also comes down to both of us being aligned. And I think a lot of people in relationships, they put their partner first when it should be God first. Like I told my girlfriend, I was like, hey, I love you, but I love God more, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I'm not fulfilling my promises and covenants and the standard that I promised to God, I'm not going to be able to show up as a partner. And I like just setting that expectation very properly. And it's really cool because both align in the same page. So, but it has to come from the beginning as an individual, and then you guys do it together. But
And
both have to
maybe
join.
and maybe I didn't set that expectation of what when I was with my ex. I didn't. I mean, I she knew where I stood with the church. She didn't know.
But
And
it's
she,
not even church, dude. I'm talking about just
no,
relationship. I
no,
think we put a
that's what I
lot of
mean by too.
emphasis in
Like,
just church when it's like, no, dude, it's Christ. Like he's the
correct,
answer to everything.
correct.
You
Yeah,
know?
and she knew where I stood with that. She knew I took that serious. She knew that was an important part of my life. And you know, like you said, it got to the point where I started making her the priority over God, and that's where issues started happening.
Did you think you mentioned that it came from an insecurity thing? Do you think that you were gonna lose her? Do you think that you weren't enough? That you had some
Of
confidence
course,
issues and stuff?
of course. I think um, I was afraid of losing her. You know, um, she's a very beautiful girl, very beautiful. And there's times where I thought, yeah, like this. I feel like this girl might be out of my league. But at the same time, thinking that I was going to lose her,
Yeah.
oh, I lost. I didn't lose her, but I lost everything else I had.
Yeah.
I had her for a little bit, but I lost everything that was important before her.
One of the biggest lessons I've learned in the past couple of months is that people change. Doesn't matter how much you love someone. People change. There's emotions, there's financial stuff, there's physical stuff, there's
Right.
mental things. But the one person that we should be the most loyal to, that never change, that is always constant, it's him.
Correct.
And I kind of like learned it the hard way too. But I think a lot of people don't have that loyalty like priorities of who am I loyal to first. For
Yeah.
me, it comes down to God, my partner, then my friends, family, and then everybody else, or people I do business with, whatever. But I think they make priority, obviously, their partner or somebody else, which I'm like, dude, it should always be God first, because this dude will never change. Like, he's
Exactly.
always so constant and consistent in his behavior and relationship with us. So, okay, it was 3 years. Where do you find yourself now? What are some struggles that you've had while overcoming these things?
You know, it. Good question. So there was a couple big struggles after. Um, and I'm just going to be very open with this. I haven't been really open with this, but there was a point where I was very suicidal
Really?
after the breakup.
Really?
And again, I felt ashamed. I felt like, I lost the world. I remember praying and telling God, like, how could you do this to me? Like, how could this something like this happen? And yeah, I struggled with that. I felt suicidal. I felt like I couldn't live on this earth anymore because of what I did, and I felt like everything I had, I lost it. So that was a big struggle at the beginning. I'd say for a good month, I felt that way. The only way I got out of that was friends, um, friends, and I'm gonna bring this up too. Therapy also helped me out with that. I had to go to therapy. I got myself right mentally. I did it for a good 5 months, and I learned a lot about myself that I, didn't recognize, and I learned a lot about that relationship that was bad, um, that I didn't see because I was so in love. I was so
Yeah.
blind to it. So, um, so yeah, my mind wasn't right. I was suicidal for a little bit, and then the third thing was just confidence. I just didn't have. Uh, I felt like I couldn't return to the person that I used to be. I felt like I lost that, and I felt like the whole world crashed on me when I lost that girl. Um, but that's totally a lie because things are 10 times better now in my life.
Yeah. What about body wise, fitness wise?
Yes. So
Because I know, and this is the
yeah,
other thing that I was going to talk to you about, that 2019 post that you made, that you were unhappy, overweight, discouraged.
correct.
It seems that you there's something that kind of like patterns about life. There's something that's
Yeah,
bugging you. It's been bugging you for a minute. So,
correct. So body wise and weight. when I broke up with that girl, I was weighing around 235 pounds. Okay. I feel like my whole life I've always like been sporadic with my weight or the way I looked. I'd gain a lot of weight, lose weight, gain a lot of weight, lose weight, gain a lot of weight, lose weight. And in this moment with this girl, I was like overboard. I felt horrible with myself. I felt like, yeah, I just didn't feel good with myself in
Yeah.
general. Um,
What's the heaviest you've been?
Probably 235. Yeah.
235.
235 pounds has been the heaviest I've been. I honestly thought I was going to hit 240 because the way it was going.
Where are you at right now?
215. So I've lost 20 pounds within the past 3 months.
Have you ever been below 200?
My goal is to be around the 200 range. So
Okay.
I don't know if I'd want to be under 200. I feel like I'd look like a stick when I'm at that point, but I'd want to be around in the 200s.
Have you ever been under 200?
Have I been under 200? Yeah, like in high school. I was
Oh,
weighing
yeah.
like 180, 185.
So when did you let yourself go when it comes to weight stuff? Because you know, Hunter and I we work with a lot of people in
Sure.
20U, and a lot of stuff is the fitness part of it. And I always say to people, it's not a people don't have a weight problem; they have an internal problem. It's a mental problem.
Sure.
Sometimes it comes down to a spiritual problem. There's trauma or energy inside of you that you gotta release and let go in order for your body
Yeah.
to heal itself. But a lot of it is, at the end of the day, your body is a representation of what's inside. So it's not
Correct.
that you got to fix your body. First, you got to treat the internal, then the external will also treat itself. So where did that started happening? Like what happened? Was it relationship? Was it family? Was it job? Was it chicks? Was it freaking
So yeah.
God? I don't know. What was it?
So this last time around where I let myself go was just the relationship, and it was work. You know, like I said, I lost a lot of money, and I was so stressed out that I had to go get a job, and I just spent 9 to 5 working, and I'd come home and I just feel burnt out. I just didn't feel motivated or wanting to go to the gym, and
So when you started the relationship, what way were you walking around?
I was probably walking around like 210,
To
two oh
10.
five, around 205 to 210. I'd lost a lot of weight at that point. Um, so yeah, that's when I started it. And as you can see, when somebody gets in an interesting relationship and starts letting things go, that's one of the first things to go is your fitness.
Yeah.
And I let that go completely. You know, I, was with her, hanging out with her 24/7, you know. So I was always with her and I
It
didn't
was more you or more her?
me. I'd say it was more me.
Yeah.
And again, that insecurity thing. I felt like if I wasn't hanging out with her a lot,
She's gonna leave you.
she's gonna leave me,
Where's that come from? Family, the way you were raised, childhood?
No,
Where's that come
I
from?
don't think so. I think it was more the way she was making me feel at times. It just, um, again, like I felt like it was competing almost in that, and like while I was in that relationship, like I had to prove myself. And I'll say that I'm talking about that. I feel like my whole life I've always had to prove myself. Nothing has ever been given to me, you know, whether that's sports, whether that's work, whether it's, school, whatever that is, nothing's ever been given to me. So when I was in this relationship, I felt like I had a lot to prove. Like this is the girl that I took serious, and this is the girl that I might marry, So I felt like I had a lot to prove to myself that I could manage a
Prove
relationship
to
like that,
yourself or prove to her?
prove to her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because there's a big difference when it comes to prove
No,
myself and
I
prove to.
knew that I had the potential. I knew
Yeah.
who I was, and I knew what I had to bring to the table. But I needed to prove that. I felt like I had to prove that to her.
Okay, but then did you actually know what you can bring to the table when you have to prove to someone that you can bring that to the table?
Good question. I probably didn't think about that when I was there, when I was in that
Because I
relationship.
think it just comes through a natural thing. I mean,
Yeah,
like, dude, I always say, like, when I was dating and stuff, especially Jalen right now, like, at the beginning, I'm like, hey, I'll show you the good and the bad. Honestly, I don't care if you,
yeah,
like, this is me. But, like, I don't know. I always think about somebody who's confident and somebody who's sure of himself, the good and the bad.
sure.
Doesn't hide anything, So I think a lot of guys struggle with this, dude. I used to struggle with this back in the day, but I think a lot of guys struggle with this stuff of trying to show this persona of somebody that they're not. But it just
Yeah,
kind of comes down to insecurity thing,
yeah,
because they're not confident, they're not fulfilled, they're not happy in their own skin, you know. And sadly, a lot of this stuff comes out in relationships,
Hmm.
and we got to learn through break hearts. I mean, our hearts getting broken and rejections and cheating and all these stuff,
Correct.
and in feeling ourselves that we're less of who we truly are. It sucks, but it's part of the deal too. Did you have friends and family like calling you out or like, Andrew, like, what are you doing,
Course.
bro?
Course. Course. I had friends telling me, dude, you got to get out of that. That is not a healthy relationship.
And you just didn't listen for 3 years?
Look, I think being on the other side as a friend and with a friend that's with somebody that you see stuff, I think it's easy to judge and it's easy to call things out. But these friends, I'd say they told me, but they at the end, you tell your friend what you think, or you tell your family what you think. It's up to them to make that decision.
Yeah.
I heard it a lot. And again, I was in love. So what did I do? I put my face in front of them and told them, hey, I don't care what you think. I'm in love with this girl. This girl makes me happy. I'm moving forward. It doesn't matter.
Now,
And
did she make you better, or did she created emotions?
created emotions.
Okay, because there's a big difference.
Did
Okay.
not, I'd say she made, okay, I'm not going to poop on her, but
Because
there,
at the, no,
there is a lot,
accountability, at the end of the day,
there is a
you
lot,
allow that. At the end of the
correct.
day, you allow that. You
Yeah.
tolerated that. That's what you got because you invite everything into your experience. As a guy, as a man, that's just the hard truth for everything. Now, for women, is kind of harder because a lot of women don't take accountability. They're kind of like enemies with the word accountability, and they always blame everything on somebody else. But at least
No.
we're gonna be the right example and take everything into our own hands. So
Yeah, no, and a lot of it was me, a lot of it was me. But there was a lot of, I say there's good in that relationship. There's a lot of good that came out of it. There's some good stuff that she taught me. Um, but the things that were important, I let go because I was being loyal to her instead of loyal to God.
did you distance yourself from like your good friends?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. It happened.
Oh boy, you had all these red flags. I'm like
But,
freaking.
brother,
This is just one.
I,
I'm not
I,
trying to make fun of it, but it's like
no,
it's just
no, no. I tell her how it is. I tell her how it is.
golly,
That
man.
a lot of my good friends, I just stopped talking to them, and they got to the point where I just ghost them. I wouldn't say anything to them. I wouldn't talk to them, and it's just because I spent so much time with that girl. And the other thing was too, and I feel like, again, not trying to poop on that person, but there's a lot of times where it was like a little bit of manipulation, like, oh, you're gonna go hang out with your friends and you're not gonna hang out with me. I'm like, all right, like you're putting me in that position to choose, and I don't like. I didn't like it at the time, but again, I was loyal to her, so of course I chose her, and I was with her. Um, yeah, it's actually really funny. There's a song. Um, it's by Drake, and it's called "Die Trying." It's new. Um, in that song, there's some lyrics, and it's literally kind of the concept that we're talking about right now. But um, there's lyrics saying that when you got with this girl, you distance yourself from your friends, and that's exactly what happened. I lost a lot of friends. One of my best friends, I feel like that relationship is strained because of that relationship. It's not the same anymore, and it sucks. I'd love to fix it in one day, but it takes two to make that happen.
Yeah, dude, I think the main thing is just like also turning your back from God.
Yeah.
And I'm not speaking from a third party theory, like I've done the same thing. And God like really corrected me, especially, and this is something that Hunter taught me, that he will not bless a relationship based on sin. And the fact is that sin carries a weight.
Yeah.
And like it or not, especially sexual sin, sin gets you farther from God. And a lot of people are like, oh, no, it's fine. I'm human. Like, God still go to. I'm like, dude, like it or not, you will distance yourself from God the more you sin, especially
Correct.
serious sins.
Correct.
Especially the more you know, because you're judged not only by what you do, but what you know. That you're held to a different
Right.
standard.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, and that's the interesting thing is that I knew everything. I had a testimony of the Savior. I had a testimony of God. I knew I had taught this. I had taught these principles for 2 years on my mission, and it's crazy. I taught it, and I knew it, and I knew for a fact what I knew was right. And then just out of nowhere, you
So
just get.
how do you bounce back, brother? How do you bounce back?
So first of all, it takes commitment to yourself to bounce back because I had to commit to myself. Like, okay, I'm the only one that can get myself out of this situation. Nobody else is going to do it. Talking about fitness, I felt like I got myself right spiritually, but like I said, 3 months ago, I started running every day, and I said I'm fat. Again, I had an accountability mirror, so I
Dude,
wrote out
which is
everything.
hard freaking truth, bro.
Yeah,
I'm
this is the truth.
overweight.
Yeah,
I let this thing happen. I was low confidence. I did
right.
this. I power backs over me. Because if
Exactly,
I did it, I can control it.
exactly.
And that's the beauty of ownership and accountability. If it's my fault, therefore I can choose and change it.
Correct, correct. And I woke up every morning and I saw that list. I said, I'm fat. I let's
Okay,
be
wait, let me correct you that.
right.
Because those statements are pretty. You are fat now, but that's not who you are. I can
Correct,
guarantee you that.
correct. I'm not there yet. There's still a lot to go, but I'm getting there.
Yeah.
But I just wrote out my reality. I wrote out this is what I am. My girl left me for this reason, or we broke up for this reason. It was. I lost all my money for this X reason, but I'm gonna bounce back. And at the end, I wrote out this quote, and it was it was prove people wrong prove people wrong and prove myself right. And I still stand by that quote today. Whatever happened in the past is in the past, but I just got to prove myself now that I could be that person that I was before, or even better. And I feel like I am a better person. Going through everything I went through, I'm a better person now than I ever been.
Do you have a lot of resentment and bitterness?
No, I'd say,
Because this is what I'm hearing. It's like I gotta prove
right.
people wrong. I gotta prove.
Yeah,
It goes back to the premise, like, and
correct.
again, I think there are stages in your life that you need that for sure.
Hmm.
Because things just suck. Sometimes just
Yeah,
suck,
yeah.
and the only thing you have is just bad energy, which is still energy, and you just use it. But do you think it has made you a little bit better, trusting people,
So
walls, and all these different things?
sure. So let me go back on that quote. So I use that quote to motivate myself to get myself right. Look, after we've started the year, we're 6 months or 7 months in now. I feel like I've let go of that quote just a little bit because I can now trust people. I'm at that point where I could trust people. I could have conversations with them about stuff. I'm open to it. I don't have any bitterness anymore to what had happened in the past. Yeah, it sucked. It
Do
is
you
what
have
it is.
bitterness towards yourself?
No, not anymore. Look, I had to go through what I had to go through. I take accountability for it. It had to happen. Could I have stopped it from happening? Yeah. But, God is interesting. He put some stuff in our life to be better. And he knew that I could withstand that. That's why I'm here now. So I'm
I
not
think
bitter
the
about
cool thing
everything
is,
that happened.
I think the cool thing is that I think a lot of people are just like, okay, God did this, or what. I'm like, no,
No,
it's my
it was
human
myself.
decisions. The
Yeah.
cool thing about God is that He can take something bad and negative, give it meaning and purpose, so we can bounce back and use it for a better situation and actually learn from it.
Correct.
And that's the beauty of the gospel and the beauty of Jesus Christ is that He can take something broken and make it better or put it
Exactly.
together.
Exactly. And I feel like I said, I feel like I'm a better man than I was before.
That's great.
I'm 10 times better than I was.
That's great.
And there's been a lot of blessings. Like again, there's been a lot of blessings after the fact of everything that happened in the past. So many blessings. I'm getting to the point where I'm back on my real estate career where I'm making money in that. I still work at a job now, but that is going to be out of my life within the next, I'd say in August. That's my goal. I'm actually dating somebody. That's pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah, it's been, well, nothing official yet, but obviously you'd
I was
want
going to ask you, how
to.
did this whole situation has translated into dating and how you're gonna approach it.
Say that. Say that one more time. You cut out real quick.
No, I said I was gonna ask you like how did this situation and season that you went through translated into your dating life and how are you approaching it?
So yeah, it was hard at the beginning. Like I said, there's a lot of doubts of myself, but you get to the point where you got to take a chance on yourself. You got to act with faith. I can't just wait for a girl to appear in my life. I have to take a chance and act. So yeah, I took a chance, and yeah, the person's really cool. I have a good time with that person now, and
Does she make you better?
that she makes me better every day. And that is the difference. That is the big difference. That is the biggest green flag I could say now, is that that person makes me better or want to be better. Um, she's an awesome chick. I'm happy. I'm happy. I met her. I'm happy I took a chance on myself.
How'd you guys meet?
Church.
Church. Okay.
Yeah, church. And like, we're not official yet. I mean, I'd love to be official.
Like,
Love
how
it.
long you guys been going out for?
Probably like almost a month and a half.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who knows if she sees this, but yeah, it's going really good. That's all I could say. And excellent, excellent women.
How's been dating in Utah for you? How old are you? 20,
28.
27?
28. Dating in Utah is interesting. I think you got to look for the right things. Is the advice I could give you, or give anybody, is look for the right things. I think sometimes you could get caught up in looks and other things that could deter you from what's important. And that is the biggest lesson that I've had, is looks isn't everything. I think it's their relationship with God that needs to come first. If that person could check off those boxes of they have a good relationship with God, they put God first, they want to be better in the future, then I think those are the big boxes that people need to look for now.
I mean, but dude, looks matter. Like,
Yeah, of course it doesn't matter. Of
I
course,
don't know about you, but I ain't dating no freaking threes and fours or even fives.
no, 100%. That's not
No,
what
no,
I'm trying
what
to
I'm
say.
saying is that you're above an eight, freaking out. We'll consider and talking. Then, okay, she has a good relationship with God, freaking good goals, mindset, whatever. But
Exactly.
looks is the door. Now, in order to stay, obviously, other stuff too.
Of course, and that's why I'd say, of course, looks is very important. You have to be attracted to that person.
Yeah, you have to be sexually attracted. It has to be chemistry.
Absolutely.
You have to be all this stuff. With boundaries in the beginning, for sure. As long as you follow certain guidelines and, you follow the guidelines that God has put in, it's the best way to keep a healthy relationship, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So you're happy now. Better, more, a little bit.
I'm 100% happier than I was a year ago. Let's put it
Okay.
that way.
That's good.
And
That's good.
like I said, things happen for a reason. Things happen for a reason, but it's who it made me to be today.
Yeah, that's good. You started running.
Yes.
Well, tell me about it. Why'd you start running?
I started running because it was a hard thing to do. And I thought, if running is a hard thing to do, and I went through what I went through, I think I could conquer running. And running is a monster. Like, I think running makes you better. I think it builds character. It wasn't easy. I still remember the first day I went running, couldn't even hit a mile. I got a half a mile and I was dying. Now I could go out and run 6 miles without any problem, But it's been something that I've grown to love. I played a lot of sports in high school, but running was not my favorite. That's just to go out and run and just on the street. So it's been interesting. It's been an interesting journey on that, and yeah, luckily I'm preparing for a marathon right now. So
That's good, brother.
In October.
Hey, I'm here in St. George, so
Yeah.
we'll have to see each other when you're down here.
100%.
Dude, that's fun. Running, because I used to run a lot before. it was like the season that I was in that was just, I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of resentment towards people, kind of like similar to what you were talking about. I had a lot of people wanting to prove wrong and be on their throats, and I'm like, dude, what's a hard thing to do? Running.
Yeah.
And I got into ultra marathons, and I'm like, dude, this is a freaking beast, and Ironmans and 50 miles, 100 miles, and I just fell in love with just pain and my relationship with pain. And it's funny because I think I have 8 ultramarathons in like a year and a half that I did.
Wow.
50 Ks, 50 miles, 100 miles. And I would just intentionally put myself in situations that, like, I remember my first marathon. One of my friends, he was like, hey, dude, I'm going to Vegas next weekend. I'm like, oh, where you going? And he's like, I'm running the Vegas Marathon. I'm like, how many miles is that? He's like, 26.2. I'm like, I'll sign up. And he's like, there's no way. I'm like, bro, like, I just paid the thing right there. And I started Monday, I did 4 miles. Tuesday, I did 10 miles. And then I was tired.
Yeah.
And then Thursday, I did 4 miles. And then Friday, we head to Vegas. And then I run this Saga in like 3:43, which I'm like, oh, that's
It's
pretty
not bad.
decent time for my first one. But I blew up my meniscus doing it.
Oh man.
So I felt it when the whole thing like cut. And anyway, then I had to have surgery. Then I did a triathlon like a week, 2 weeks later. And then I have to have surgery because then they found a tumor in my same foot that I blew up my meniscus. I had like double surgery in the morning. That was July 5th. Well, I was in recovery. 2 months without walking. So July 5th, I signed up for a 50-mile race in Vegas, a trail one, for November 5th. So I had like July, enero, febrero, marzo, junio, julio, agosto, septiembre, octubre, like 4 months, 4.5 months in like total for preparing. Anyway, it was like a whole freaking 2 months. I couldn't even walk, so it was like a whole journey of it. And then I just fell in love with ultra marathons. But then I found fighting, and that's when I'm like, shoot, like there's something higher than freaking. I thought I was like hotshot, like this tough guy, whatever, because I can do hard things. And then I'm getting my butt whooped on the first time in jiu-jitsu. And then I'm like, dude, I gotta, like, it made me so humble that then I got into fighting and stuff. And then I fell in love with fighting. I'm actually getting ready. I want to fight either December or February. I'm trying to, I was talking with my coach yesterday. I just think it's so rad. So anyway, that's where the whole running, fighting career. I'm excited for you, dude. I think you're going to figure out a lot about yourself and find out a lot of what you've made of with running because it is so hard.
Yeah. And I have. There's been a lot of those self-talk moments.
Yeah.
You know, hey, like, again, like the prove people wrong, prove myself right. Like there was a lot of self-talk moments there. Like I got to prove that I can do this, you know. Now it's not like that anymore. It's more I'm grateful that I've been able to get to this point. But again, you got to live with a chip on your shoulder sometimes to get you to be motivated and get you.
The thing is, it was one of the only ways to deal with bad stuff. Like,
of course,
you know. So, like I remember when I got cheated on and stuff, it freaking sucked. But the only thing I could do is like F all you guys. Now, I do think when it comes to relationships, you get to, for a long time, I was just surviving, to be honest, because I had a lot of stuff inside of me and a lot of walls. Mm-hmm. And I realized that just for me to achieve the next level and actually thrive, especially in relationships and connecting with people, I needed to let go of that stuff.
Yeah. And that's what I needed to let go. Look, I'll tell you this real quick. In whenever, I think it was October, I had to get myself right. January, I was not right yet. There had to be a process of getting myself right to get to the point to start dating, you know? Because I felt like, how is a girl going to take me serious if I tell her, hey, my life isn't in order right now, you know? Just the nature of the beast. Why would she take me serious? I'm struggling in every aspect of my life. Why would I not do that? Why would she do that? So like I said, I got myself right. And I felt like, you know, April, March, I felt good enough to, hey, let's start dating. Let's do something hard now. Let's do the next hard thing. And, you know, the blessings came. You know, I was ready when I was supposed to be ready. And hopefully, and yeah, that person also accepted me for who I was, who I used to be. but that did not come night and day. I had to get myself ready for that moment.
Dude, friggin', you know what's the hardest thing I've done? Like that took so much friggin' effort and energy out of me. It wasn't
Well,
fighting. It wasn't the ultra marathons. It wasn't the Ironmans. It wasn't like even started businesses or social. Like it wasn't none of that stuff.
yeah,
It was literally dropping my walls and healing with my relationship, that especially that I had with women, because I would not connect with them for a
yeah,
single thing. Because I thought they're all the same. It's just God and me, and I had this belief, and just with not just with women, but people in general of it's just me and God, and people are gonna disappoint you, and like f everybody, and all this stuff.
yeah,
And I built so much walls, and I remember this was like back in December, January, that I'm like, there was a part of me that was like, Ben, you've lived like this for 25 years, but it shouldn't be like that. We need more.
yeah,
And I was like, I have no evidence of it, but let's do it. And I just started creating evidence, but it took so much out of me to start trusting and relying on people. I would say that was even harder mentally than any other thing that I've done physical.
yeah. It
I
is
think as guys,
it's
it's
a
just
mental
easy to
battle.
suffer instead of like friggin' dealing with emotions, connecting in those walls, you know?
Yeah, no, and I had to let my walls down and say, hey, like it's time to take a chance on somebody,
Yeah.
and they're taking a chance on me too. So why would I have my walls up with that person if they're going to put their walls down for me? You know, um, but that all comes with time. You know, it's not a night and day process. The
Yeah.
process is very. It could be a month. For me, it was 6 months to be, comfortable with that idea of being confident with myself and saying, yeah, like I'm ready for this. I could do this. But you got to believe in yourself too. If you don't believe in yourself, then you're gonna stay stuck for a long
I think
time.
a good part of it is asking for help, not
Yeah.
knowing it. Like we don't have to do this stuff alone. So what were those resources that you did? One of them, you said it was therapy. What else do you do?
So helping myself as well was opening up to my friend group. Um, like I said, I had that life very private with that relationship. It was very private. I didn't say anything. I felt like I should just keep that life private. But once I started opening up about some things, that's where they were able to help me. My friends were able to help me. Even though I lost a lot of friends, the friends that stuck around and like were there for me, I was able to come to them and tell them, yeah, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what's going on.
That's great.
I don't know what to do. The other thing too was opening up to my parents. I have a great relationship with my father. I've had a great relationship with my father for a long time, and it was strained for a little bit in that relationship. But once I was able to open up to him again, he was open. He was there with open arms. You know, how is my dad not going to give me good advice? He loves me. You know, he wants to see me do well, and those were some of the resources that helped me. And therapy. Therapy was a big one. It's good to get an insight from a neutral party that doesn't really know you,
Yeah.
and you open up to that person. You tell them, hey, this is what's going on. This is how I feel. Like what I do. Like it's good. I was a big non-believer in therapy until I actually did it. And but I can't. I mean, I'm sorry. Like for what? Like that girl, that therapist was awesome. Like truly, truly a blessing. Inspired to have her in my life.
That's awesome, dude. Do you think having her being a woman healed also your relationship with women?
Yes, yes, yes. As a matter of fact, yes. I think that did help a lot.
That's good.
She turned that. She helped me learn and turn that page for sure.
So what's the ongoing battle that you're working on right now?
End goal and battle. Right now, my goals are to find the next person that I'm going to take serious. I think marriage is still on the table for me. It's
Yeah,
still
before we talk about like things you can achieve or have,
okay.
I'm talking about internally, Andre,
Me,
your
me myself.
your work. Yeah.
What I want to learn about myself and my end goal right now is to be the best version of myself that I could ever be. I that includes my spiritual life. It's actually very well. but I wanted to be a spiritual giant that I used to be.
Okay.
The other thing was
Used to?
to,
What do you mean by that?
when I say used to, I was talking about like in my before that last relationship, I felt like I was a spiritual giant. I
You
lost it,
lost it.
but I want to be that spiritual giant again. It's kind of interesting. Uh, God, who would have thought a year ago that I'd get called to be a leader in the church? They just called me to be an elders quorum president, and
That's awesome.
I did not think that was in the cards a year ago. You know,
Hmm.
but how is God to put me in that position to become a spiritual giant to help others that are also struggling with things that I struggled with? Um, that's one of them. The second thing is to be um, to accomplish things that at some point in my life I thought were impossible, which is like buying a house or being having assets that produce me money for my future family. Um, and I guess the last thing is to make my family proud. I went through something really hard, but I want to make them proud. I want them to see that, all this stuff just made me to be a better person and
Yeah.
made my grandparents, everybody in the past proud. Because at some point, yeah, we lost that, but now we gotta be better from here on out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's freaking awesome, dude. I'm happy for you, dude. Happy you had this realization. You seem very aware.
One hundred
It was,
percent,
pretty sure it was a very humbling process.
100%
We all
humble.
have a lot of ego and pride in our hearts for sure. So,
Yeah,
yeah, and God knows that. So He'll strip away everything if we're willing and start rubbing it up. And I want to talk to you about after we finish this thing too. But what's your final message to you wanna share with the audience?
yeah. This is something big that I feel like has been important. I'd say within the last 3 months is I'll now say it in Spanish because I feel like it has a lot of meaning to me in Spanish.
I'll
Um,
translate.
but it says, yeah, los milagros no han cesado. The miracles have not ceased. So there's miracles there waiting to happen in people's lives. But it takes two. It takes yourself to make that miracle happen, and it also takes God, doing it with God. If you work with God, He's going to be able to provide that miracle for you. It could be the craziest thing in the world. It could be doing a marathon. It could be, getting an impossible job, studying, getting a college degree, studying a trade, making X amount of money, or feeling confident with yourself. It can be anything. Um, yeah, miracles haven't ceased. A big miracle in my life was getting out of that situation. Did I at the point of that when it happened? I did not think it was going to happen. I didn't think God was going to perform a miracle for me, but He
Yeah.
did. But did it take? Was it night and day? No. But what did happen night and day was when I felt that, hey, I'm out of this. I'm happier. I feel accomplished. I feel like I have purpose in my life again. That will come when you least expect it, and that's when you know the miracle will hit. But for sure, miracles haven't ceased. God can still perform the miracles. Um, but it takes two. It takes you and God. And for you to ask and humble yourself to God and ask for that help, He'll be there for you. And that's the biggest advice I can give somebody right now is that miracles have not ceased.
That's freaking awesome, brother. Dude, I appreciate you being honest, being vulnerable, being willing to share and all these different things. I know as a guy, sometimes that can be
Yeah.
one of the hardest things for sure. Just dropping those walls down and sharing your story. I do believe that, you went through a lot that a lot of men struggle with. And, there's a reason why the word mess is inside the word message.
Yeah.
Because it's our mess that actually has meaning. And those are the things we can relate to be when we should be sharing the most. But for some reason, because sometimes we have a lot of regret or we're ashamed of something and we feel disqualified or whatever, we don't share this stuff. But how are you going to share something that you're just speaking theory? That's why God let us go through certain things in the earth by the flesh so we can overcome them and then help people do the same thing that we've done. So I appreciate that, dude. And
Absolutely.
anyway, guys, if you were able to relate with anything that Andre just said, comment down below in the comments and stuff, either YouTube or the podcast. Let me know you guys' thoughts. And if this is something that you guys were able to relate, share with one of your friends. I'm pretty sure a lot of guys struggle with this stuff. And Andre is a perfect example of what can happen once you're aware. And it's a great comeback story, so freaking love it. Anyway, appreciate you, brother. Have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you later.